Kenny Brack is the man in kart this year. The 99 Indy champ has 2 poles, back-to-back wins, 1 second, 1 fifth. He's led 358 laps, or 44% of the laps run this season. The quiet Swede wants to keep the momentum rolling. Can they keep them rolling? For these men, it's a pivotal day. The first road race since April, and the start of 6 races in 7 weeks. A test of stamina for all. ABC Sports is live from beautiful Belle Isle in the Detroit River, Detroit, Michigan, for the Kart Grand Prix of Detroit. Happy Father's Day. I'm Paul Page, and let me tell you, Kenny Brack is hot. He won his first Champ Car race. Then he won again. Now he's looking for 3 in a row. And he is the current points leader. But then again, he has never won in a Champ Car on a road course. The last time, in fact, that he won on a road course was in 1996 in Formula 3000. The good news is he has won here on Belle Isle in a Barber Dodge car, 1993.
For Helio Castroneves, the momentum from his victory at the Indy 500 was derailed with a first lap crash, the last event a couple of weeks ago in Milwaukee. But if he's to get that momentum back, why not at the track where he first climbed the fence as a kart winner a year ago, right here at Belle Isle? Well, Helio Castroneves is going to pace this field from the pole position today. He's got the rookie driver Bruno Junqueira right alongside, and it's absolutely imperative for Castroneves that there be no repeat of that mistake at Milwaukee. It would be devastating to his championship hopes as he chases points leader Kenny Brack.
After consecutive first lap crashes both in Japan and Milwaukee, certainly Cristiano D'Amata needs to bounce back here today. But qualifying did not go the way that he and the team had hoped. He will start today in 17th position. Consider, no one has ever won this race if they did not start in the top 10. Now, Texaco has a slogan for D'Amata: 130 pounds of pure nice guy. When you're on 17th and you need to go to the front in Detroit, you might have to drop that nice guy part.
2.3 miles, 14 corners. Principal passing area, that's heading down into turn number 3. It's also where the drivers will see their maximum speed approaching 190 miles per hour. The track is technically very demanding. It's also very bumpy. In fact, so bumpy that before resurfacing at start-finish on Friday, the drivers were getting airborne at 175 miles per hour. Now, those bumps will certainly take their toll on the drivers and their equipment today. This track does not tolerate mistakes. The slightest miscue, and you'll end your day up against the concrete wall.
Here is the Kawasaki starting grid with defending champion Helio Castroneves on the pole and rookie Bruno Junqueira outside. He's a rookie, but twice this year he started on the front row. Gilles de Ferran is in row 2 and Dario Franchitti outside. Franchitti is winless in his last 26 starts, but he did win here on Belle Isle in '99. In row 3, it's Jimmy Vasser and Patrick Carpentier to the outside. The 4th row, Roberto Moreno and Christian Fittipaldi. In row 5, Shinji Nakano and points leader Kenny Brack. 6th row, Oriol Servia, Mauricio Guzman. In row 7, 2-time winner Michael Andretti and rookie Nicholas Malassian. Now, Michael Andretti searches for his first win with Team Motorola. He was second to Brack at Milwaukee. In row 8, Adrian Fernandez and former champion Alex Zanardi. The 9th row, Cristiano D'Amata and our rookie winner Scott Dixon. In row 10, Michel Jourdain Jr. and Alex Tagliani. The 11th row, Max Wilson. Brian Herta is alongside. In the 12th row, there's Paul Tracy with Max Pappas. 13th row, Tora Takagi and Tony Kanaan. But Kanaan suffered a concussion in an accident yesterday, and they have withdrawn the car. He will race at Portland.
Key numbers here. Look at the number of laps to go for a 2-stop race. It's 24. Will someone today try to make it a 1-stop race and go 37 laps? 3.4 Gs in cornering, 3 Gs under braking, a G1/2 in acceleration.
As you can see, the field is already rolling. They're on the pace lap and turning toward the start-finish line for the green flag. Again, the front row, Castroneves and Junqueira. There they are, all tightly bunched. They know how important the start is here and how very difficult it is in this competitive field to get around one another. Helio Castroneves now turns them toward the start-finish line. They give him the green flag, and they're racing. Castroneves got an incredibly good start out of that.
Michael Andretti around the outside of Dario Franchitti. We're also going to keep an eye on his teammate Paul Tracy starting back in 23rd.
All safely through the first 2 turns here on Belle Isle. Helio Castroneves pulls away. Jimmy Vasser, that bright orange car, looks to the right, trying to find some room alongside Franchitti. It bunches up. Michael Andretti trying to make his move as well. We'll keep an eye on the back to it. Paul Tracy to see whether or not he's going to be able to move forward quickly.
Yeah, that was Carpente around Franchitti, but we can also see Michael trying to move up. We see wheel-to-wheel action there with Mauricio Gugelmin and Shinji Nakano.
Mauricio Gugelmin gets it inside. They bunch up once again. Alex Zanardi looked like he got on the brakes a little early, just behind Cristiano D'Amata.
Coming back down into the Fountain Complex, 180 miles an hour here, very bumpy, off-camber downhill as they make this right-hander.
Looking back from Nico Manassian's car. Oh, look how this early on they're starting to step out. Back in, out just a little bit, back to the front, Helio Castroneves. Junqueira in second. Gil de Ferran slotted into third. And Patrick Carpentier dropped into 4th place, moving himself 1 position forward from his qualified position.
Up over the rise here in turn 2. We'll see as these cars burn fuel and use tires. You'll see them starting to get sideways. Now the fastest section of the track, approaching 190 miles per hour. You see Castroneves defending the inside. Bruno going back to the outside, looking for the traditional line.
Scheduled distance here today around the 2.3 mile circuit, 72 laps. On board now, Bruno Junqueira from 2nd place.
Watch how his head's tossed on this bumpy circuit. Watch the transitions from asphalt to concrete, back to asphalt. Watch the bumps on the exit here.
So Bruno Junqueira tries to overhaul the top position currently held by Helio Castroneves, and Gil de Ferran, the #1 cars, dropped back just a bit. Gary Gerald?
There was concern after Bruno Junqueira in the rookie test on Wednesday at Mid-Ohio somehow tweaked or aggravated an injury in his back, and the team was very concerned yesterday, and he was complaining about difficulty not feeling comfortable in the cockpit. However, he did get medical treatment and medication earlier today. The team told us right before the command to start engines that he was walking much more fluidly, looking much better, feeling much more comfortable as he settles in at race pace and stalks Castroneves.
On Thursday night, Bruno Junqueira was actually complaining about that pain, and he said he felt it came from his use of the Hans device, that new safety system that they wear around their helmet and shoulders at some events that will become mandatory at the time of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course event for all races. And he said it caused a pain for him, a stiffness in his back, and he was very uncomfortable with it.
The Hans device isn't fitted perfectly around your shoulders. Tracy looking down the inside of Zanardi here.
Can't get her done there.
If it's not fitted exactly, he's coming back. Now we've got Jourdain trying to take advantage down the inside of Tracy.
Yeah, Jourdain does grab Tracy. That team, by the way, celebrating their 200th start in the series.
Tracy lost some momentum trying to go down the inside of Zanardi. Jourdain hung back, got a great exit coming off the 3rd corner. Used that to his advantage to pull off a pass going down to the inside of the following corner.
Sure looks like Tracy may be in trouble because he's got Max Wilson now climbing all over the back of him and really has not come forward at all. What about Bruno Junqueira, Jan Beekes?
Well, Paul, before the start of the race, we talked about if you were Bruno Junqueira, what would you do? And I think the answer is you would push Castroneves as hard as you possibly could, because the Toyota folks know that Honda has been in some trouble with this new configuration on fuel economy. If Honda is allowed to dictate the pace of the race, therefore they have a very strong chance of winning this. However, if Toyota can really push Castroneves and make him use more fuel than he wants to, they can stay out longer, take an advantage, drives 3-2-3 super fast laps when Castroneves pits, and that could be the difference.
Going back to 3rd place now. There's Gil de Ferran. Patrick Carpentier just behind him, Jimmy Vasser, and Franchitti back behind them. Beautiful day here. On Friday, it was incredibly hot. Oh! And Jourdain Jr. and Zanardi into the barrier. Both of them appear to be all right. Both of them moving in the cockpit.
Yeah, it looks like down in that principal passing area, heading down into turn 3. We've seen cars off here during the course of the weekend. We'll have to see and take a look at exactly what happened, but I can almost tell you for sure we had one driver trying to get down the inside of the other. We'll take a look at it now, see what happened.
Brought out the full course caution and the pace car.
Fastest part of the circuit, 190 miles an hour. Jourdain looks down the inside, almost side by side, not quite. Zanardi takes the line. Classic racing incident. Jourdain didn't quite have the corner. Zanardi wasn't going to give it to him. Right rear to left front, both into the tire barriers.
And because it is a principal passing area, as we watch Alex Zanardi climb clear of his car, that little area has bitten more than its share of race cars this weekend. It's Castroneves, Junqueira, de Veren, Honda, Toyota, Honda. Ford sits back and forth in the hands of Patrick Carpentier. We're back at Belle Isle in Detroit as we look down from the Honda Helicam. The full course caution twin flags fly at the start-finish line. First incident comes on lap 4. It involved Michel Jourdain Jr. and Alex Zanardi. There goes Alex walking that very long walk back to his pits. This is what caused this full course caution.
Jourdain trying to get a run down the inside of Zanardi going into turn 3. Doesn't quite have the pass made. Zanardi takes the line. They make contact into the tire wall.
Both of those drivers did climb out of their cars, though they are okay. Now, a lot of news going on at every event weekend in the CART FedEx Championship Series. Tuesday at a test at Michigan, CART provided a new pop-off valve to all 3 engine manufacturers. Now, on Wednesday, it was also available at the Mid-Ohio Rookie Test, which was attended only by Toyota. But its use was not mandated until Friday morning here on Belle Isle. The valve sits 3/4 of an inch higher on the plenum. Honda and Ford were both very upset. Honda boycotted the first practice session. Ford stood down most of that same session. CART's new rule brought out some widely differing reactions.
Paul, let me tell you about the physical changes that CART did make to the valves themselves. Now, you've seen the valves on the back of the car. Of course, this would be the orientation. If we turn it upside down and look to see what in fact protrudes into the plenum you talked about, which is effectively the inlet chamber, this is the sensor. In other words, this senses how much pressure there is in that plenum, and this valve opens at 37 inches of boost. Now, you can notice it just does protrude into the plenum somewhat. Now, what people were talking about, the allegations between the manufacturers were that they were taking high velocity air and running it across this. It's Bernoulli's principle all the way back from 1783 that a high velocity jet stream here can lower the pressure and effectively make the valve think there's a lower pressure than what there is. So what does CART do? They say, well, let's extend the housing so in fact the sensor does no longer sit into the airstream. Therefore, if in fact they have high velocity air and they're cheating the valve, this will take that away. Now, there was not necessarily disagreement in using this, but there certainly was a firestorm as to did they have enough time to adequately test it.
Well, and Honda did file a protest. It was disallowed. They now say they may appeal, and they may in fact protest the outcome of this race. It's obviously a story that's going to go on for a while.
First of all, let's explain. The plenum is the box that sits on top of the engine where the turbo feeds pressurized air. It's mixed with fuel to give these engines such tremendous horsepower. That valve releases any excess pressure over 37 inches to try to control the power output of these motors. Now, we should point out that all 3 engine manufacturers have to submit those plenums to CART for approval before they're used in competition. Ford and Honda have figured out a way to accelerate that air, as Jan said, past the plenum, to use the rules to their advantage. So there are no surprises here. The big issue is not this change, but how it was implemented. Honda and Ford say they had no idea that it was going to be used this weekend. They didn't have a chance to test it on a road course like Toyota did at Mid-Ohio. And as Jan said earlier, Honda and Ford have no idea what sort of fuel mileage they're going to get during this race, since they have not been able to do long runs on a road course. That is the big controversy.
With 1 lap to go back to green, Max Pappas goes into the pits. Paul Tracy also stopped at the beginning of this yellow flag session. So did Dixon, Herta, and Takagi. They have all stopped now along with Max Pappas. Well, our first Toyota Spotlight of the day, we want to take a look at one of the great drivers in the series. Alex Zanardi. Zanardi won here in 1998 and then sealed that victory with his famous spinning donuts. signature. But today, in that very same corner, his race ended on lap number 3. They circulate behind the pace car 6 laps of the 72 in the record book. Half of those run in formation behind the pace car. Here's the way they are now. And once again, we'll be focusing up on the activities of Paul Tracy, well at the back of the field, who has tried desperately to save his tires. But he's had a problem with that because throughout the weekend he's had 3 different incidents with the wall.
He's had 3 different accidents. He's brushed the wall. On top of that, a few more times. As you said, the Hondas did not participate Friday morning in that session. They saved a couple sets of tires, but he's used them. He's struggled all weekend long to find speed. Gary Gerould, what's the problem?
Well, Paul Tracy's just had one of those wild weekends, you know, the 3 incidents starting on Friday and then 2 during qualifying yesterday left him without tires this morning in the warm-up. We were watching to see if he was making bonsai runs. Well, he got the fresh rubber. They elected to gamble, and that's one of the few things that you can do from a strategic standpoint from the back of the pack. First yellow, get in, top off with fuel. Maybe it'll pay a dividend later on when everybody else has to pit, and you can get some track position. So it's purely rolling the dice right now for Paul Tracy. Of course, he's got to keep it off the concrete. That's been the big problem this weekend.
Already, Castroneves picks the pace up. Lap 8 begins, and we are back to racing on Belle Isle. And again, it's a great start for Castroneves. Junqueira slots into second, followed by DeFerrin, Carpentier, and Dario Franchitti.
See the back of those cars step out coming off the second corner. That's what happens with 900 horsepower in 4th gear and that big rise. That's going to be a factor before this day's over. We've seen some big crashes there in the past.
Bit of a separation. Back to Jimmy Vasser, then Fittipaldi, and then Vasser's teammate Moreno. Another big issue here. You see it very clearly. The changing surfaces of Belle Isle.
We spoke earlier about Bruno's discomfort with the Hans device, the fact that it was not separating the load evenly, supplying the load evenly across his trapezius and his shoulders, creating problems. Watch the bumps here as these guys drive around the circuit from this asphalt to the concrete and back there again. Every time they hit that, it's like hitting a speed bump. You're doing it between 55 to almost 190 miles an hour. It's like going 10 rounds with Evander Holyfield by the end of the day. Guys are complaining of headaches. They've got bruises across their bodies. Beats up not only the drivers, but also the equipment.
And there is Paul Tracy. You see that Max Wilson also was able to get around him. That occurred on the restart. Now, Paul Tracy is still languishing back 19th place. Now Tracy starts to work on Wilson.
And this is where he wants to set up the pass. Right here, he wants to be right on Max's gearbox, maximize his advantage off this corner. He's going to try him on the outside heading down into turn 3.
Carpentier, Franchitti, they go side by side. Carpentier holds him off.
But you saw the difference there. Unlike the Zanardi-Jourdain accident we had, Dario started to get up close to Carpentier. He saw it, recognized that he didn't quite have the line, backed out so that as Carpentier took the line, he wasn't going to make contact. That's a major difference as opposed to Jourdain sticking his nose in, not completing the pass. Zanardi's got to close the door on him. He's just not going to roll over. That resulted in an accident. A little more patient heads-up driving from Dario Franchitti.
And you may well wonder why, when the furthest back someone has ever won this race is 10th place, that was Danny Sullivan, why we would be even worried about Paul Tracy. Least we forget, a year ago, Long Beach, Paul Tracy won from 17th. He's pretty good at winning from back in the field. Gary Gerould?
Michel Jourdain making a long walk back from turn 3. Quite a battle with Tracy, Zanardi and company. Can you tell us what happened, Michel?
Well, since the beginning, Alex, I think, was really slow, you know. I lost a couple of positions trying to pass him. I got pulled back again because Alex was blocking him and tried to pass him, and I guess I wasn't all the way in, and he blocked me and didn't make the pass.
Well, we're glad that you're all right. Sorry that you're out early. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, and something's going on with Franchitti. That was just a sudden slow. That wasn't so much an overtake as he just suddenly slowed. Miss a gear? What could that be? This would be your part, Parker.
Well, I was waiting for an answer, Paul. We don't know. Now, in the previous lap, Vasser was ahead of Franchitti. Obviously, had gotten back around him, and then Jimmy took that position back. It could be a number of things. We've heard of drivers even missing the brake pedal this weekend because of the bumps entering corners. We've seen an accident as a result of that. Could be a whole number of things, whether it's downshifting, upshifting, not having your feet positioned exactly right, gets you a little bit out of timing. The guy behind you, he's on it, takes advantage of the mistake and gets around you.
Well, now the guy behind Franchitti is Christian Fittipaldi. Jimmy Vasser in front of him. Behind Fittipaldi is Roberto Moreno. So a lot of pretty heavy and experienced talent up toward the front. The lone difference of that, of course, is Junqueira, the rookie, sitting in second place.
And we noticed for this weekend that Jimmy's car had a new livery. The last race at Milwaukee, it's that bright pumpkin orange. This weekend sponsored by Vestion, their hometown here being in Detroit. Jimmy having one of the best qualifying sessions of the year so far.
Helio Castroneves continues to lead. 10 laps are now complete. We're on lap 11. Bruno Junqueira sits in second place. The crews, for the moment, well, they just sit, watch, and wait. About lap 33, maybe a little further, they'll be called into service. There is your top 5 after 10 laps. Honda, Toyota, Honda, the top 3. Action earlier in the run here at Detroit. Well, next weekend, Tiger Woods heads a spectacular field of the PGA Tour's best. The Buick Classic, live from Westchester, New York. Coverage begins Saturday at 3 Eastern on ABC. Well, welcome back to Belle Isle. Paul Page with Parker Johnstone. Helio Castroneves is still leading. In fact, only one difference since we left you. Paul Tracy was able to get around Max Wilson for 18th place. So Tracy now trying very carefully to work his way forward. And then Dario Franchitti, his teammate. Gary Gerald, what happened there?
Well, we checked with the crew. They said that they missed a radio transmission. He was on the back part of the course. Then they determined that they had what they call a voltage spike, and everything shut down. But it was only temporary, came right back on. So he's in 6th position. He's trying to hold on Christian Fittipaldi, and Fittipaldi's crew is telling him, use that overtake button if necessary. Pounce on him if you get the chance.
Well, Christian Fittipaldi set up just behind him. It seems more like Franchitti is working a little harder on Vasser now.
Well, they are, and with that early yellow, that's going to extend their fuel window. Once again, remember, we've got this fuel battle of the unknown. The Hondas and the Fords have not made long-distance runs on a road course. Christian Fittipaldi, of course, with the Toyota, having an advantage, maybe, possibly, with extended fuel range.
And then what about Kenny Brack? He's won the last 2. He is the points leader right now. Well, Brack is a little further back in this field than I think he would like to be. If you look up there through the order, there is Kenny Brack, back behind Roberto Moreno, currently running in 9th and being worked on pretty hard by Oriol Servia.
And he just turned the race's quickest lap 2 laps ago. So even though we've got this gap back to Kenny and Oriol's all over the back of him, he has turned the race's quickest lap so far.
Of course, quickest lap, at least at this point in the run, is more a product of how much clear racetrack you may have ahead. Though it's a surprise that Castroneves wouldn't be turning it.
Well, as you alluded to earlier, I think right now Castroneves is actually trying to pace this race a little bit. The thing that is surprising is that Kenny Brack hasn't closed up the gap to Roberto Moreno, who's currently about 2.3 seconds ahead of him.
Helio Castroneves brings his Honda-powered Penske Renard. It's a Renard chassis, but heavily worked by the Penske crew. And so much so that now it's hard to call it a Renard. Oh, look at that beautiful corner. Just tracks the back end right around there. Jimmy Vasser driving for Pat Patrick, 5th place right now, behind Carpentier, Jan Vikas.
Paul, you mentioned about Vasser possibly slipping back somewhat. I checked with the team. They said, no, Jimmy is doing what he does best, and that is saving fuel while keeping the speed up. He has found with the Toyota power plant that the trick is to not feather the throttle through the corners, not to stab it. that effectively through the middle of the corner you kind of coast somewhat, and he has found that he can pick up extra fuel economy. Well, what does that mean? It means that possibly he could stay out one more lap than the people he's racing with. That can be a big advantage.
Yeah, but Parker Johnstone, Jimmy Vasser has been turning some pretty quick laps.
In fact, on that last lap, he turned the fastest race lap, eclipsing Kenny Breck. So here he is with Franchitti over the back of him, and yet he's just turned the quickest lap. I'm surprised he hasn't closed up the gap a little bit on Carpentier. All these guys running within 1/10 of a second or so of each other.
Sunshine shines down on every inch of the track here. That's expected throughout the remainder of the run. And unlike on Friday, nice cool temperatures here today. Max in the high 70s.
Well, and we've actually seen track temps about 115 degrees, about 15 degrees cooler. Significantly, though, we saw 92% humidity earlier in the weekend. Today, it's only 33%. A lot cooler, a lot drier, better for the drivers, the tires, the brakes, and especially these turbo engines.
Vasser leads a group from his 5th place. Vasser, Franchitti, Fittipaldi, Moreno, all lined up very closely. Well, 16 laps are complete in the Grand Prix of Detroit, the CART FedEx Championship Series. Helio Castroneves, the pole sitter, jumped off to the lead right at the start, followed by rookie Bruno Junqueira and Castroneves' teammate Gilles de Ferran. 3rd lap, Michel Jourdain Jr. and Alex Zanardi got together. No injuries there, but both of those guys out of the race. Go on board with Nicholas Manassian now. Manassian's back in 14th. Well, it's pretty picturesque, but it is very fast, and those walls are right there ready to nip at you at any time. Helio Castroneves, Bruno Junqueira, Gilles de Ferran, Honda, Toyota Honda, the top 3. The first Ford sits in 4th, Patrick Carpentier, and then Jimmy Vasser in that group that is battling so closely together. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Next here on ABC, more racing as the Indy Racing League is at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Last Saturday night, Eddie Cheever Jr. was battling for the lead when he got caught up in this wreck. Now Cheever returns to the scene of his most recent victory and the only one for Infiniti in the IRL. The Pikes Peak Indy 200 coming up next here on ABC Sports.
2 weeks ago, CART was on an oval in Milwaukee. Now they're on the temporary road circuit at Belle Isle in Detroit. Nothing has changed since we left you. Helio Castroneves is still out in front. Bruno Junqueira right behind him. De Ferran is right there as well. In a race that is so very important from a strategy point of view, where you can place that fuel stop. And best guess is we ought to see a stop here fairly quickly. Dario Franchitti just got around Jimmy Vasser, so Franchitti is now back in 5th place.
4 fastest cars on the track: Breck, Vasser, De Ferran, Castroneves, and then Bruno. So that group going very, very quickly, running 100.6 mile/hour average lap speeds.
And there is Cristiano Damata, currently 15th. He's had a terrible set of races after winning the first race of the year in Monterrey, Mexico.
Had that great race with Castroneves for 2nd at Long Beach, and then those opening lap crashes. This weekend has not gone well. They were slow off the trailer on Friday, had an accident morning warm-up, and has struggled. Currently 3rd in the championship, tied in that 3-way battle, trying to find the handle on this street course. But as Kyle Moyer, the team manager for Team Green, find this place, it is a monster. It is onto itself a very difficult entity to get the car set up exactly right.
But D'Amata is inching his way forward. Brown Fernandez lines up behind Manasseh. Well, this is a tight battle at the front.
And Patrick Carpentier in particular, Paul, looks like he is probably one of the quickest of this lead group. It's hard to tell what the pace is, with the passing being difficult to achieve here. We can see DeFerrin now filling the mirrors of Bruno. Bruno, very mature young man, lots of race experience. He's not going to get rattled by that, but DeFerrin's just trying to see if he can force a mistake from this young Brazilian. But now look on this section of the course. Carpentier in these slow 50 to 70 mile-an-hour corners with the short chutes, faster than DeFerrin in his Penske Honda. They get onto the longer, faster sweeping corner sections of the course, and you'll see DeFerrin start to pull a little bit away from Carpentier, like this upcoming corner into the Fountain Complex.
Well, Carpentier is right there. And when we talk about the tightness of the battle, it may not look all that tight, but it truly is. I mean, someone just has to, as has already happened this weekend, have a foot slip off of that throttle during the lateral G's of one of these corners, and boom, everybody's past you. Whoa, Carpentier almost loses the back end under a lot of pressure now from Dario Franchitti.
And we can see Carpentier checking from left to right. You can see him there looking in his mirrors. Remember, Franchitti led a 1-2 finish at Team Green here in '99. He's very comfortable around this Detroit circuit. He loves street courses. And we'll see if he can close back up now. The crucial section for passing is right here. He's got to get a great exit, pressuring Carpentier. He doesn't quite have enough closure in order to do it. We'll see how defensive Carpentier is. You can see him driving down the middle of the road. He's not going to leave the door open for Dario this lap.
And again, this battle, which is for fourth, closes on third place Gil DeFerrin, the defending series champion.
And what's happened is DeFerrin's now fallen back from putting pressure on Bruno, but now he's not worrying so much about Carpentier, because Carpentier's dropped back about a car length as he worries about Franchitti. It's much easier to chase than to be chased.
But there, in fact, is the problem, because while you're busy trying to catch the guy in front of you, somebody's always knocking on your back door. Jan Beekes, Alex Zanardi is back in the pits.
Yes, he is. We tracked him down back at the motorhome area. And Alex, I know this has been a tough year for you. What happened at the end of the back straightaway there?
Well, I drove a few laps. I knew with the car I was driving today I was not going to get live TV at the end of it, so I decided to have a crash so I could send my best wishes to Tony Kanaan and get live TV this way, although it's not a very nice way to end up talking to the TV.
Now, it looked to me as though possibly Jourdain didn't get into position. Is that how you feel it came about?
Well, the bottom line is, at the end of this situation, you always kind of blame each other, and it's very uncomfortable to say anything about the accident. From my view, I didn't see anybody coming. I knew he was there, but he didn't put a move, and I left a little bit of room, and boom, I heard my, and I felt my back going around, and that was it. It's very unfortunate. We had a tough season so far, and I'm not gonna give up, but certainly it's hard because I was expecting different result. And more than that, more than the accident, is really the fact that we were nowhere at the beginning of the race in terms of competitiveness. So we just have to get all together and work very hard and try to find out what was wrong with the car all weekend long, that we couldn't place it up higher.
Thank you, Alex. And again, thanks for your enthusiasm and your good spirit.
And that enthusiasm is why it's so good to see Alex Zanardi back in the series. Well, Helio Castroneves is just driving steadily ahead in front of everybody else. That's the view of downtown Detroit and the Renaissance Center from Belle Isle. And there is your lineup. The CART FedEx Championship Series, the Grand Prix of Detroit. Well, in just 2 weeks, the CART FedEx Championship Series is back on ABC Sports. The Marconi Grand Prix of Cleveland, Sunday, July 1st. Beautiful view on board with Mauricio Gugelmin, currently 12th. While we were away, Tora Takagi was able to get around Brian Herta for 21st. No change at the front. It's Helio Castroneves leading Junqueira and Gil DeFerrin. And in our Toyota Spotlight, we want to take a look at Helio Castroneves, who started third in Detroit last season and then went on to lead the final 24 laps of the race to score his first career victory. That prompted the now famous fence climbing routine that he's known so well for. Today, Castroneves is looking for 2 in a row on Belle Isle.
This place is exactly where I started, and I remember everything, the victories, the tradition of climbing the fence, and you know, I'm very glad to be back here. It's going to be tough again. I mean, the heat, competitors, I mean, it's everything changed in a year, you know. So, but I'm very confident, and I'm very happy to be here.
Well, as Helio Castroneves continues his lead, Kenny Brack, out of 9th position, has turned on to the pit road. Gary.
This will be the first of the green flag stops. They're telling the team to ease down, take a deep breath. Now they swing into action. They want it to be as routine as possible. Remember, a second lost in the pits could be huge in the racetrack because the basic margin between these cars has been only a second or less. Rick now at 12, 13 seconds, rolling away. He'll get some position because all the leaders are going to have to be coming in shortly.
And while Kenny Brack came in for that stop, Scott Dixon got in trouble, rolled to a stop on the course. And the question now is whether or not that engine is running, and Dixon will be able to keep going. The yellow flag flies at the moment only in that area, and the Simple Green safety team was coming around the corner trying to get to him.
Well, this is a very bad position to be in. Of course, he's back in turn 12. It's an 80-mile-an-hour corner. Whoa. And these guys aren't going to back off very much, because as a driver, when you see even a waving yellow, even if you don't have line of sight through the corner, you're not going to give up any advantage to the guy behind you. I think Kurt's going to be forced into a situation here if they can't clear that car very, very quickly.
Well, the field started around him. We saw the first 4 cars go past. The field's still pretty well bunched, so maybe they will get them as soon as the cars get past them. Jimmy Vasser now on the pit road. This on the 29th lap. Don Oldenburg's view.
And Paul, I can tell you that they wanted to go to lap 31, possibly 32, so maybe they're not picking up all the fuel on that car. They did not expect to be here this early.
Yeah, I would think if that's true, they're surprised because they had 3 laps of yellow full course right off the start, Jan Vikas.
Yeah, but I had checked with them after the yellow, and they had said they projected that it'd be on pit road 31, 32. So what that means is the pickup is not picking up all the fuel that they want.
Very surprising to see Kenny Brack and Jimmy Vasser, 2 of the guys who get the best mileage in the business, in. Now, Jimmy Vasser obviously having a fuel pickup problem, but Kenny Brack, very interesting to be in that early.
Well, the safety team is out, and look at the advantage that Castroneves has picked up. Dixon, they were able to get him refired, is our report, but look at that hole between first place Castroneves and second place Junqueira, and look at de Ferran all over the back end of Junqueira.
Castroneves hit the safety track exactly right, was able to pass him on the short chute. The other guys got held up just coming off the corner, and here comes de Ferran looking down the outside, but he's going back to the inside.
Back to the inside, right-hander ahead. De Ferran is kept back. First of a straightaway here, back to the right again.
De Ferran just trying to force a mistake. Whoa, you could see the back end step out as Junqueira got on the throttle there. I'm sure de Ferran knows if he can force a mistake, he'll take it. Otherwise, he's going to try to rely on the Penske team to beat the Chip Ganassi team on the round of pit stops that will be coming up very soon for both of these drivers.
And once again, you saw that Tryon effect because de Ferran working so hard on Junqueira. And here came Carpentier closing back on the back end of de Ferran.
Show you how fate plays in these races. On that last lap, Castroneves pulled out a 4.2-second advantage. Thanks to the CART safety truck, it was great that they didn't have to go to full course yellow, but at the same time, it gave Castroneves a huge advantage.
And all of these cars averaging about 107 miles an hour. Here comes de Ferran. He has passed Junqueira, and for the first time today, second place changes, and Penske runs 1-2. And look at that, Junqueira lost more. What's going on there with Fittipaldi down to the inside? Somebody must have dropped it big time. So Christian peeled off for the pit, and at the same time, Junqueira lost big time ground. Here comes Roberto Moreno working on him.
And he's got him.
Tires, maybe?
You know, it's very strange because when someone falls off...
This is Fittipaldi coming back out of his stop.
If he had a fuel pickup problem or some other malady, you would think that he would have gone right for the pits. He had the pit entry available to him, but he stayed out on the racetrack. Obviously, it's working. It's just not working well. I don't know if he got offline, picked up a lot of garbage on the tires. It usually takes 2-3 laps to clean him back up, and that's what we're seeing. And everybody else just like chumming the waters. The Sharks are attacking here.
It dropped him all the way down to 6th place, with Servia and Michael Andretti now beginning to charge on it. Jan Beekes, you have any idea what's going on here?
Well, you can hear the radio communications. They are not sure. In fact, the communications that have been coming from Junqueira's car seem somewhat garbled. This is a very difficult racetrack to keep your radio communications up. The team flatly does not know, but they want him now to come on pit road to get fuel just in case.
And Servia, all 3 of them go for the pits. Whoa, that was close. So Junqueira is now going to lead Servia and Andretti into the pits.
Okay, nice and easy.
Jan Beekes.
Nice and easy. Slow down, slow down.
And of course, now they're going to try and assess if there's any, to see if there's any problem with the car. No adjustments, just waiting for the fuel. Again, no word on that sudden slowing. About a 12-second stop. Not brilliant, but hopefully they can get some data from the car and find out what went wrong.
Well, Michael's going to pick up a position on that stop. Pitted down at the far end. He comes out ahead of Servia. And there comes Cristiano D'Amata, and the Penske team have begun to lay out tires and tools ready for a stop by the leader. And 2nd place, Castroneves, number 3 in the lead. De Ferran in 2nd place. 32nd lap.
What's interesting to see here.
Watch the speed limit, watch the speed limit.
Helio Castroneves on the pit road now. Gary Gerould.
Paul, we watch with the crew. We're waiting. Helio's in sight. He has the farthest pit down the line at pit out. That's sometimes a very distinct advantage. De Ferran will be right behind him. A rivalry between the teams. De Ferran's crew pulled the tires out of the way, so it's a clear ride for Helio. No changes on the wing configuration up front, just waiting for fuel. And now he rolls 13.1 on my clock, and behind him De Ferran is now serviced, waiting for the fuel. The number 1 car, the defending champion, is rolling. Here comes Dario Franchitti right behind him.
Yes, and Dario had a 13-second pit stop. They added 1 turn of front wing. Otherwise, everything routine.
And one of the advantages of putting your pit all the way down right at the pit exit, well, there are several. Look at the battle between teammates here. Vassar on the right, Moreno on the left. Vassar tries to work him. Besides being all the way down at the end and being able to hammer it right out of the pits because speed limit's not an issue, you also are well down past the start-finish line, so as you're coming in, almost always you can retain your position in the scorebook for that lap.
Absolutely, and the thing that's curious here, Paul, is we've seen the Toyotas get great mileage in the past with the rule change with that new pop-off valve for this weekend. The Hondas and the Ford's a little bit down on power, but as we've seen with the Hondas, they may be down on power. That's resulted maybe in less power output, but certainly much better fuel mileage. Castroneves, De Ferran, Franchitti stretching the mileage to the very end. And as you said, with that pit position, now back in 1st, 2nd, 3rd. We'll see as this shakes out at the finish of all the pit stops.
Right behind him, Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy, remember, in that first caution, made his stop, so he should be able to carry his car at least 3 laps further.
Yeah, he's out of sequence. We'll see what sort of speeds he's turning relative to Castroneves, pacing off Castroneves. Paul obviously has been unhappy with his car, but the key interval is between Castroneves and De Ferran. That's what we're looking for.
Jan Beekes, Jimmy Vassar currently 7th, battling with his teammate Roberto Moreno.
Remember, we talked about that he might have a fuel pickup problem because he came onto pit road early. We found out that that was a Jim McGee strategy call. He thought that when Scott Dixon was stopped on course, they might get a full course caution. He gambled and pulled Jimmy Vassar in early just in case. There's no problem in that car picking up the fuel.
Oh, Jim McGee, the team manager there, been around a long time, played a lot of those gambles. Most of them have worked out. Castroneves, Tracy in 2nd place. Tracy out of sequence on his stops. Carpentier still sits in 3rd. De Ferran into 4th, and Dario Franchitti out in 5th place. Paul Tracy is now 29 laps away from his stop, so he should be due in sometime within the next 4 laps. There they are, the top 5, and it's Honda, Ford, and then 2 more Hondas.
Straight down the center.
Back at Belle Isle, Detroit, the Kart FedEx Championship Series, and Paul Tracy falls out of second place into the pits. As expected, he's able to carry the car just a little bit further, Gary.
He brings it in right on the money, and the Team Cool Green team goes to work one more time. They were hoping they could milk a couple of more laps out and take advantage of the fact they could gain some more positions. Revs up at 12 seconds, 13 and a half as he rolls away.
And in heading out, Paul Tracy will drop steadily down through the field. Patrick Carpentier picks up second place, and Gilles de Ferran will come into third. Tracy now brings her up to speed. There is Castroneves. And what about Carpentier? Carpentier is second. He's never won. He's been close twice, finishing second twice.
Well, in fact, he's got no points for this year, and look how he has closed up the gap. He's one of the fastest cars on the track at 109.8 miles per hour.
Max Wilson, apparently something wrong, and he just decided, well, you heard it. He gets the car off the course.
Before that last round of pit stops, Castroneves had a 4.9-second gap. It went down to 1.45 after that round of pit stops. The team players guys doing an exceptional service for Carpentier. Carpentier in this last lap has now brought it down to 0.6 of a second. So Carpentier, the fastest guy on the track, he definitely not only wants to catch Castroneves, we're going to see some pretty aggressive driving from the Canadian, I think, to get around him, Paul, before very long.
You see all those people trying to help Max Wilson get the car totally out of the way and back behind the wall. CART, of course, uses a great many volunteers to help run, especially on the road courses in a temporary circuit like the circuit on Belle Isle here. And many of their volunteers come from the Sports Car Club of America and their various regions in this area. Couldn't do it without them, and yet they come out and stand in the sun all weekend, or rain, as the case may be, and they do a great job. Max Wilson, go back and show you. Here's a little problem that he had, Parker.
You see, coming into the corner under braking, you look at the right rear. Look how it's towed out. Obviously, he either brushed the wall earlier and it finally broke. Did a fairly good job of keeping it off the wall, at least for that incident. We don't know what led up to it, but obviously a piece broken in the right rear suspension.
Guys, this team really was hoping for better fortune this week. Remember now, they've moved up in terms of their power plant, and even though it's a year-old power plant, they've got that Ford power under there, and Larry Blair has stepped in to join Frank Arciero and company, and they've made some restructuring in the team. Bob Sproul now a part of it, and this young talented driver was hoping he could get in a whole afternoon today at Detroit.
It was especially good to see Larry Blair with a giant smile on his face, now part of the team up on the scoring stand. Well, as the 39th lap is underway in the CART FedEx Championship Series on Belle Isle in Detroit, it has been an interesting day. It started with Helio Castroneves on the pole, and these were the stories that everyone was looking for. Well, Helio Castroneves is certainly looking to do solidly here at the site of his very first win a year ago, the first time he climbed the fence. D'Amata, well, he's still struggling, sitting down in 11th. Franchitti is up in 4th place, and Kenny Breck is kind of caught midfield as well. Brian Herta, who also stopped quite late, is making his second stop, and this should be routine, yeah?
Yeah, he is out of sequence. That's pretty typical for the timing we've seen. No changes, about 13 seconds. And being out of sequence today, if you don't have cautions, doesn't do you much. But if you get lucky and catch a caution at the right time, you never know.
And you got a glimpse, too, of Dixon's car as they tried to get it out of the pits. And it didn't really catch for him. And now they're trying to drag it back. And there's not a lot of hurry up in the team. So we'll keep an eye on Scott Dixon for you. Here is Helio Castroneves working now on the 40th lap of the run, 72 the scheduled distance.
Little surprise, Carpentier made up a lot of ground on Castroneves, and now it's leveled off. 0.6 of a second interval between these two cars. I'm a little surprised. I thought Carpentier was going to try to push right past him. Maybe he just wants to be close enough to take advantage of a mistake or traffic if they do catch some, so that he can slip by. For now, just pacing behind Castroneves.
Helio Castroneves cannot be that easy to pass on a road course.
None of these guys are, especially here.
Of course, the officials have been taking a pretty hard look. Castroneves himself warned while in the lead at Long Beach, a race that he won in April, several times. Be very careful. Don't block the guy behind you, but blocking can be such a subtle thing here. Here's Carpentier as he continues to work on Castroneves. And the nearest competition, third place to Farron, is about 8.5 seconds back. Just off the edge of the course, the Lakes barges work the river that separates Detroit from Canada. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Well, welcome back to Belle Isle, Detroit. The twin flags now fly, yellow flags. Pace car is out. As luck would have it, well, there's Bruno Junqueira, who just pulled to a stop. But as our luck tends to go, as soon as we went to commercial, things happened everywhere. First of all, Junqueira's teammate, Nicholas Manassian, got in trouble.
Coming down into the fountain complex, turns in, back in, steps out. Ooh, nice slide by Tag.
And here's how it looked from the onboard. Well, then the car that was following him, Alex Tagliani, just a few corners later.
Back in turn 12, wide and fast, hard up against the tires.
Now, the good news is Tagliani is okay. So obviously is Junqueira, and Manassian by the edge of the race course as well. The field has slowed, but before they slowed, as soon as those twin yellows came out and they realized it was a full course caution, almost everybody came flying into the pits. Further update on Manassian, Jan Beekes.
Yes, there was a report on the radio prior to that he was experiencing some gearbox trouble. So if you're on the approach to a corner where you're turning and downshifting, if in fact something goes wrong and it skips a gear, that could explain it.
So when the full course caution came out, literally everyone stopped. So they made their stop on the 41st lap. There's a wheel nut laying out on the track.
Yeah, you really don't want to leave those there. They're better on the stub axles holding the wheels and tires on.
And now it makes us wonder, whose is it? Because if it's from a car that's out there right now, somebody's wheel is in serious jeopardy. It's probably going to be bouncing off any time now. So here's the way they are now lined up. And Parker, I'm guessing that no one is going to have to stop again.
Well, that might be a good guess. We're going to see how this plays out. Remember, we have Tracy, Hurt, a few other guys who are out of sequence. This might play right into their hands by the end of this race.
And Patrick Carpentier, what's his story, Jan Beekes? He's second.
Yes, had a very quick stop at 12.36 seconds. I can also tell you the missing wheel is from Junqueira's car.
Well, that explains Bruno Junqueira and the wheel nut that's laying out in the middle of the track. So under the second full course caution of the day, when we come back, it should be a sprint to the finish. Wide world of sports, mobile updates focuses the NHRA Pontiac Excitement Nationals from Columbus, Ohio. Top fuel points leader Kenny Bernstein grabbed his 6th #1 qualifying effort of the season, blazing the quarter mile in 4.659. George Murnell scored his first pole in Pro Stock since '95, while defending Pro Stock Bike National Champion Angel Savoie motored to her 2nd straight top qualifying in Pro Stock Bikes. Now you can catch all the nitro-burning, earth-shaking excitement of the Pontiac Excitement Nationals tonight at 8 Eastern on ESPN2. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Well, we're still on a full course caution. Jimmy Vasser, who was doing so very well, suddenly stops and is out of his car. He doesn't seem to understand it any more than we do.
He was in 7th place. He'd been running in the top 5.
Might as well walk over the fence and talk with a few folks. Nothing else to do. Just wait for the ride to bring you around. Now, the real focus at this point, safety team is there to help Jimmy, is Paul Tracy. Gary Gerould, without a little help, I would think that the 6th place runner Tracy's got some problems.
Well, there are concerns. Let's put it that way. I just had a quick conversation with Barry Green, and he says, I asked him, how much yellow are you going to need in order to make it to the end? And he said, well, we needed about 8. We've got 3 right now, but we're definitely going to need some help. But he said, what the heck? We figured if we'd have pitted and topped off like everybody else, we're probably 12th or 13th at best. points pay down to the 12th position, and that's only 1 point. So he said, we decided we're going to be a little more aggressive. And he said, we're just taking the more aggressive line, and we're hoping that maybe we'll get some good fortune, and maybe he can end up a whole lot better. Right now he's in 6th, and remember, he started this day 23rd.
Well, it's also not like they have a lot of choice. That's really probably the only thing that they can do to try to get up into the points, or in fact in the lead. Still under the full course caution. Remember the Alex Tagliani incident? Here's on board with Adrian Fernandez running just behind him.
And you can see Alex gets a little wide. He's offline in the marbles. Picks up the front brakes, locks up the front tires, slides straight off into the protecting tires in front of the concrete.
Well, it seems every time that they try to get back to the green flag, something else happens. The latest is Jimmy Vasser. They're trying to get his car hooked up now, and what they're doing is hooking up to the rollover bar on the car, so they're actually going to have to lift it off the ground. It's not going to roll back to the pits. Once again, here is the current order in the Grand Prix of Detroit. Castroneves in front. Well, our Toyota Spotlight takes a look at some of the incidents here on the circuit at Belle Isle today. Zanardi and Jourdain Jr. got together. Manassian spun it. Tagliani went around, and then Tagliani caught the wall. Jimmy Vasser also caught the wall, his left front sitting just against it. And so still under the full course caution, most recently for Jimmy Vasser, there is the running order. And Jimmy Vasser's made it back to the pits and joins Gary Gerould.
Jimmy, there was all kinds of disappointment at Milwaukee because of a different type of contact. In this situation now, tell us what happened.
I just flat blew it. You know, I was, we made our last stop. We left the tires on, they're hot. And when you go out on hot tires, you pick up a lot of the sandy material and marble. So I was working really hard trying to keep them clean for the restart. And I just lost it. I just totally lost it, tried to keep the tires clean. And
I know you were confident this weekend. Did you feel like you had a car that could win this race?
Well, yeah, going into the race, yeah, but you know, it wasn't unfolding that way for us. The car was good, but we just we came in a little early for our first stop, trying some sort of a strategy I wasn't sure about, and lost a little distance. The car was good, but you know, I'm sorry for my team. Patrick Racing Team did a good job this weekend and gave me a great car, and I just flat blew it.
Thank you, Jimmy. We're going to swing right over here. Bruno Junqueira was also coming back and has graciously stopped. You were up there challenging from the front row. Tell us about your day before you ran into the problems that put you on the sideline. Did you think you had an opportunity to get by those Penske cars and win this?
For sure. I was just behind Helio trying to save fuel. I had the opportunity to pass him twice on the early race, but I said not to take too much risk now. Let's save fuel. And after 15 or 20 laps, something on transmission started to be a little strange. Helio started to open a little bit, and I tried to go faster, but I feel the car wasn't good, and suddenly the car just became really bad, and I get Dixon, someone spun, I get marbles, and I couldn't drive. I lost a lot of positions, but something was completely wrong with the transmission. The car was really strange. We changed tires, but the car is still really strange, and unfortunately the car stopped without power or without transmission.
Well, better luck next week in Portland. We're about to go green. Thanks, Bruno.
Speed comes up. Castroneves takes the green flag. We're back to racing again. 46 laps are complete. Servia and Fittipaldi work on each other. Oh, de Ferran kicks the back end coming off of the corner. Look at them spread out. Everybody's searching for position. Tracy tries to find a slot, can't do it. Fittipaldi almost loses the back in that blue car.
Yeah, that was Andretti going around Tracy. Remember, Tracy's going to be tight on fuel. Michael's going to have plenty to go to the end. Now Christian Fittipaldi trying to attack Tracy. Being heavily pressured from behind by Servia, as we saw Kenny Breck pull up next to D'Amata.
Yeah, Cristiano D'Amata in 10th. Stepped out to one side looking for room. Tracy currently occupies 7th place.
Tracy with 5 less laps of fuel in his tank is going to have to be a little careful. We've heard from all the other teams over the scanners. They're good to go to the end. They can use their overtake buttons. Not so for Paul Tracy. It's going to be rather tight. He's going to have to...
Good job with your seatbelt check. Okay, you set the pace. You get comfortable with what you got.
He's going to hope for another yellow before this is over. Otherwise, I think he's going to be overhauled. Now, what Fittipaldi has to do what Servia's trying to do to Fittipaldi all the way down, is to get a great exit coming off this next left-hander, hit the overtake button, and try to make a run, but he's not close enough. Paul Tracy getting a great exit coming off turn number 2.
Roberto Moreno steps out, takes a look at Franchitti. There comes that group, and you notice that Kenny Breck is sitting back at just behind Cristiano D'Amata. Breck is currently 11. So any hopes he may have for 3 in a row are slowly slipping away. The view down from high above Belle Isle, the Honda Helicam.
Coming off the 70-mile-an-hour 7th corner, now they are turn 6. They accelerate all the way up to 175 miles, 180 miles an hour now at this point. Hard on the brakes, 3 Gs of braking. Down 2 gears coming into turn 7 at 100 miles an hour, and then immediate flip back to the left at 70 miles an hour.
Well, that gives you an idea how beautiful the circuit is here on Belle Isle, though not nearly as pretty to the drivers who would like something different than all of the different surface changes here and walls lining the course. But the course is what it is, and they'll race it.
Physically, it's very tough, and also mentally very tough. You can't have a lapse of concentration. Get offline just a little bit. We've seen a couple of accidents now result as being offline, picking up the junk offline onto the tires.
Back up at the front, there's Castroneves, Carpentier, DeFerrin. There's Franchitti. Roberto Moreno continues to poke the nose off to the inside, hoping that he can find some room. Right behind Moreno is Michael Andretti. And then Paul Tracy now has closed up a bit on Andretti. He's closed that gap down and brought the rest of the group with him.
You can see Moreno really working Franchitti, just trying to fill his mirrors. You can see him having a look to the left, to the right, trying to force a mistake. Dario very smooth, very consistent through these low-speed corners.
You know the players. We're just going to sit back and watch and listen to these gorgeous engines for a bit. The 161 cubic inch turbocharged engine.
2.65 liter. The Honda's over 16,000. The Ford's close to 16. The Toyota's now approaching 17,000 RPM from a V8.
Castroneves, Carpentier, DeFerrin, Franchitti. There's the top of the field. It's Honda, Ford, Honda. And we'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You think there's nothing new on TV this summer? Then you don't know Jack. It's like a good game show gone bad. Don't miss the special 1-hour premiere of You Don't Know Jack, Wednesday at 8/7 Central on ABC. Well, you're right with Mauricio Guzman. There are the current standings. I'm looking forward to that one.
I think we've already got that show covered, Paul.
Absolutely. Look off to the edge. There's where you see the speed. Guzman is currently 12. So believe it or not, while we were away, nothing really happened. Everyone stayed in order. That is, no spins, no stops. Castroneves is the leader. Carpentier is 8/10 back in second place. Gil de Ferran is third. And then there's that whole group of Franchitti, Moreno, Andretti, Tracy, Fittipaldi, Serbia, D'Amata, and Kenny Brett. This is the front of the field.
It's great watching that on board with Mauricio. You could see under acceleration how his helmet, his entire body would shift up higher. Under braking, he would go down. There, G1/2 of acceleration load, 3 Gs of braking load, lap after lap, and then getting pounded at the same time. That's why it's so easy to make a mistake here. You're sliding the car at speeds upwards of 180 miles an hour, 190 at the end of the straightaway under braking. Very easy, just the smallest miscue, and you've got a big problem here. Even if it's just getting offline, it takes 3, 4, 5 laps. Try to get all the stuff back off the tires to get back up to speed. These guys that are following you are not patient.
Cristiano D'Amata working on this man, Oriol Servia. In fact, those are some of the tiny guys in the sport. Cristiano D'Amata, Jan Viga showed you earlier, is 130 pounds. Servia can't be much more. Max Wilson's about the same size. Let line those guys up alongside Paul Tracy, who is big, but it's all muscle.
Yeah, these guys, 4.5%, 5.5% body fat. Cristiano very proud of the fact that he gained 3 pounds over the offseason. All muscle gain, he told me, as he did his WWF muscle flexing routine in front of me, and I just laughed. But these guys are extremely fit.
Cristiano D'Amata working on Oriol Servia. There's Cristiano's dad, Tony, watching from the pits. Great racing driver, great touring car driver in Brazil. Junqueira's father is here. A lot of dads up and down the pit road today.
And as we had the opportunity in the last few years racing with Juan Montoya's father, Pablo, during karting, all of these fathers from Brazil are usually racing champions in their own right, and in some instances are faster than their sons given the right conditions.
You got a glimpse for a moment in the wheels of Cristiano D'Amata's car, what sometimes some people mistake for some sort of fire or something. It's really electronic advertising. They look for any place on these small cars to put a sponsor, and so they put them electronically into the center of the wheel. We're at the circuit at Belle Isle, the Kart FedEx Championship Series. There are now 54 laps of 72 complete and in the record book. Helio Castroneves was the pole sitter, and from the pole jumped into the lead and truly has never been challenged for that, though been chased consistently by Patrick Carpentier. And we saw a spray from the back of a car as it went over the line a moment ago, and it looks like it may be Gil de Ferran. He fell way back and dropped in behind Christian Fittipaldi. So he's dropped all the way back to 8th place.
But now it looks like he's back up to speed. You can see him checking his mirrors for Servia there. Oh. He's got to be very aggressive here and not leave an opening. The fact that he went offline as he slowed means he's got a few laps to try to scrub all the pickup off his tires. Look and check his mirrors.
Roger Penske on the radio to him, Gary.
I was just checking with Pete Twitty and Roger Penske on the wall on the radio to de Ferran, and they said that it slowed, and we don't know if it's one of those electronic gremlins or something where it came down and then suddenly cured itself, but at the moment it appears to be okay, but the crew's still mystified. They're not sure just what happened or if it's a problem, something to be of concern. I suppose it's got to be of concern.
Well, as he went right by in front of us, there was a bit of a spray at the back of the car, but if in fact the electronics shut down, that would cause that as well.
Well, it could be two separate instances. As they go by us at 175 miles an hour, the car's bottom, the jabrock, produces like a sawdust that comes out of the back of the car. We've seen it with different cars at different times during the weekend. It could be what's happening with these cars, as bumpy as the circuit is that all the electrical connectors, because keep in mind, the engine management systems are very complex. If one connector comes loose just for an instant, it could shut down the ECUs momentarily, and it could be just a split second before they reconnect and it refires, but that's all it takes.
So while the Penske team tries to figure out what's wrong with Gil de Ferran, it's cost him greatly. Dropped him down all the way to 8th place and bringing Dario Franchitti up to 3rd. You don't want to watch from the edge of the circuit. Well, get out your personal watercraft and just go alongside the island here at Belle Isle. We'll be back.
after the kart race, the Indy Racing League here at Pikes Peak International Raceway. Last Saturday night at Texas, a great battle between Greg Ray and Scott Sharp. They're on the front row here this afternoon. And Jack Arute, it's a 12th career pole position for Ray.
And Bob, we should continue to be treated to the same sort of racing we saw at Texas. Granted, this racetrack is far different. Only a mile. They call it a bull ring, semi-banked. But you still have to run side by side. You've got to use the throttle and the brake.
The Pikes Peak Indy 200 from Pikes Peak International Raceway is coming up next here on ABC Sports.
Well, things happen very quickly on Belle Isle, and usually right after I say we'll be back after this. I said that, and then Oriol Servia got into the wall. And they're having to pull the cranes out to get the wall fixed and him off the course. Servia's okay, but look at that hit, Parker.
The same place that we saw Tagliani go off, turn number 12, a little wide, a little fast.
Mauricio Gugelmin, look at him as he had to weave his way through.
How wide is this car? About that wide. That's it. Now watch Kenny Breck directly behind Servia as they come out. You can see D'Amata tucks inside nicely, but it's Kenny Breck that has to deal with the tire obstacle. And how about that? There's no time for a yellow flag or any warning. That's just good genetics, quick reflexes, and some great race driving.
So Oriol Servia is okay. Dave Hollander and the safety 2 team were all right there ready to help him. In fact, they came around. One of the advantages of a circuit like this is they can drive around behind some of the walls. Got there pretty quickly, so no problem. Helio Castroneves still at the front, but this may mean something fairly important, I would think, for Paul Tracy. As we look at the race recap, Helio Castroneves has been the guy all the way, but Parker, Tracy now may get the stop that he needs.
Well, it's exactly the break he needed, going from 23rd to 6th, but he was close on fuel. Now, none of these drivers will have a problem with a fuel run towards the end. The thing I was noticing on that last stat, Carpentier, the fastest car on the track, but before we went yellow, he was starting to use up his rear tires. You could see the car getting sideways, particularly coming off the corners. Castroneves.
We're working lap 56.
Neat and tidy. I think he's got plenty of tire left. The advantage at this point, at least, even though Carpentier's turned the quickest lap, is to Castroneves.
Well, with Tracy, they're trying to decide exactly what they want to do. I would think probably toward the end of the yellow, you would duck in and pick up some extra fuel, but depending on its length, you may stay out. And Helio Castroneves accelerates just as the green flag comes out. Restart comes on the 61st lap. If you're going to make a move, you're going to have to do it fairly quickly here. Patrick Carpentier and Dario Franchitti, second and third behind him. Carpentier moves a little to the right. Franchitti comes back out to the left. Carpentier may be willing to try him. Franchitti took an unusual line into the corner there. Almost loses the back end. Franchitti tries to get around Carpentier, and he almost loses the back end. Moreno closes in on Franchitti. Franchitti works on Carpentier. Carpentier stays in second place. Franchitti continues to work him. Now Helio Castroneves pulls away. They are all keenly aware that coming back from a green flag is the closest nose to tail that they may be. And now with just a few laps to go, we're nearing the final 10 laps. They all climbed as quickly as they could on top of each other, trying desperately to grab a position.
And if you're Castroneves, there's no prettier sight than looking in your rearview mirror and seeing second and third place fighting it out. Castroneves being able to pull out a little bit of a lead because of that. They're going to get another shot now as they come off this long straightaway at 175 miles an hour to try to set each other up, coming off the second corner for that long shoot down to turn 3.
Long front straight here, pit straight. Carpentier is able to close once again, just a bit. Franchitti is there. Moreno behind Franchitti.
On that opening lap, Franchitti with a great slide through turn 3. Really tried Carpentier, was up to the point where I thought they might have contact. These guys gave each other exactly the right amount of room, and they got through it cleanly.
Gary Gerald, a couple of reports. First, Helio Castroneves.
Yeah, it's interesting how these teams try to monitor other conversations on the radios, and suddenly it's like sharks in the water, maybe with a hint of blood. Castroneves, they believe, might be having a problem with a tire pressure. We checked with Tim Cindric, and he said, we actually don't know. One of the sensors that reads tire pressure from their telemetry on the front is malfunctioning. The other one apparently is working intermittently. So they don't, in fact, know if everything is 100% on the front tires for Castroneves. Meanwhile, just touching base quickly on the Paul Tracy situation, Barry Green in the last yellow said, we need another 3 or 4 laps of yellow. They were getting it, but he said it'll still be very close. And they've told Tracy on the radio he's got to squeeze every drop out of the fuel that's in his tank if he can avoid coming in for a splash and losing his current track position.
Alex Tagliani, the teammate to that man right there. Oh, another car in trouble. This time it's Herta. Same place.
Turn 12, the same place we saw Servia, that we saw Tagliani.
And the field slows for that area as yet. They've not gone to full course caution. Bryan Herta stuffs it nose in pretty hard. That must be a very slick corner. Look at all the marbles sitting on the side of the race course. You get offline, that's what's going to happen. Bryan Herta has climbed out of the car, and he is okay. And the full course caution now comes out.
Stay out.
And this may be the yellow that Tracy wanted. Well, while they slow, let's go to Jan Beekes.
Yes, and of course we're talking about that turn. Alex Tagliani, the first one to pound the wall. What happened in your case?
I lost the brake pedal, and I don't know why exactly. We're still trying to find out, but I just put my foot on the brake and the pedal went down to the floor. And I mean, I went full speed into the wall. The impact was so big that my foot slid from the brake pedal in between the brake and the throttle, and my ankle was stuck in both pedals. That's why it took so long to get out of the car, but I was fine.
Do you think, have you seen the Servia or now the Herta crash? Do you think it could be related?
I don't know if, because my crash, or I don't know if when I brake, if my brake broke and there's some brake fluid on the track and I left that, and now, it's guys had problem, but definitely my crash was not because the track is definitely the brakes.
Well, thankfully with lots of brakes, you're okay. Thank you, Alex.
And we'll look again at that corner as they try to get Bryan Herta's car off of there. Parker, you're circling the marbles.
Look at the marbles. That's the rubber that sloughs off the tires. The problem that you have, you get just a half a foot offline, and that's all you need to get onto this. It's like hitting ice. You lose grip, and the car slides right offline farther into the wall.
Yeah, but Alex Tagliani is, look at him try to get that course as clean as they possibly can, get some of those marbles away before they go back green. And when they go back green this time, no doubt it's going to be a sprint. They try to blow that debris rubber off the race course as best they can. But Tagliani said definitely his brakes. What he's concerned about is that in doing his incident, he may have actually left something on the course that has caused subsequent problems. So there you are. Helio Castroneves, Carpentier, Franchitti, Honda, Ford, Honda, the top three. Roberto Moreno is fourth with the Toyota. Pace car is out. So the guys who are chasing Helio Castroneves, here they are. A personal look for you. Well, back on Belle Isle, Detroit, Paul Page with Parker Johnstone, Jan Beekes and Gary Gerould in the pits. Helio Castroneves has led all of the way here. We want to go back and look at some of the action of the day in our Toyota Spotlight. While they're still under full course caution, Helio Castroneves jumped out on the start, and Jourdain Jr. and Zanardi got together. First round of pit stops. Then that wall started grabbing people. And that brings us to this moment. Full course caution is out right now for the fourth time today. Have 13 laps of it. With Bryan Herta being the last one to have that wall reach out and snatch him out of competition. 11 different DNFs today. It's not nearly a record. Twice we've had it at 15, once at 17.
A couple of gearbox problems with the two Chip Ganassi Lolas, but of course the rest of them trying particularly to move that turn 12 wall back a few more inches. As we see Castroneves trying to position himself for a restart.
Average number of yellow laps in this race is 15. We're not there yet. We're only one lap away. Gary Gerould, what about Paul Tracy? He's 6th.
Checking in once again with Barry Green, and he said, Gary, I tell you, it's going to be very, very close. They're getting the yellow they need, but as the track has come in, the speeds have picked up, and he says all the other vultures on both sides of us are great on fuel. We're still very, very close. Obviously, this helps him, but Paul Tracy's been complaining that the pace car is going so slow at roughly 30 miles an hour. He says that it's difficult to keep heat in the tires. Maybe we should keep that in mind as we do get ready for a restart.
Well, on the last caution, we saw the field moving slowly. Green comes out. 66 laps, 72 the scheduled difference. First 3 stay right together.
Watch Franchitti behind Carpentier.
Franchitti looks to the inside. Can he get Carpentier? Oh, it looks awful good. He's got him. Franchitti comes to second, loses the back end. That sends Carpentier to Moreno, but Moreno continues on. Carpentier drops all the way back.
You can see once they got into the marbles, they were just hanging on. Dario with a great slide. Moreno trying to take advantage of Carpentier having to back off. They make contact. Carpentier gets pushed wide. And now look at Paul Tracy.
Paul Tracy goes to the inside of Carpentier. Christian Fittipaldi tries to get around him. Carpentier looks like he doesn't have any idea where to go. He's got cars on both sides. Michael Andretti is also trying to come forward too.
It shows you how quickly you can move back. He's in second place. He gets shoved offline. It's like driving in gravel now. It's going to take him a lap or two to try to get this off. The other drivers know it. They take advantage of it while they can.
We suggested earlier that though they're nose to tail and it looks like there's some separation at the kind of speeds they're traveling, averaging now better than 110 miles an hour average. Well, things happen very quickly. There's the best example.
Dario Franchitti set that pass up well coming off the corner. He gets sideways. He stays on the throttle. Carpentier's boxed in. Moreno says, I'll try down the inside. They make take contact. He shoves Carpentier wide. Now look at Carpentier nearly into the tires there. Getting a lot of rubber pickup. Gets back online and continues to slide back.
And with all the rubber that is on the track, it's kind of surprising that he was able to save it. Jan Beekes.
Yes, in regards to marbles, we spoke with the Firestone representatives earlier this weekend, and they said after last year's race, they were disappointed. They thought there were too many marbles on the racetrack. So this year they've gone one step more durable on the compound. And so far the reports, yes, of course, there's always marbles in racing, but they feel they've really reduced them. Maybe that's why we saw some passing there.
Well, it's substantially different from last year.
Firestone, the only tire manufacturer in the series, still very cognizant of trying to produce a very good product with very good service. They've done a great job. That at a street course like this, it's very easy to have this marbling problem. These drivers realizing that may have been the last restart. They had to be aggressive. Great for Dario Franchitti, not so good for Carpentier as he slotted from second all the way back to 7th now.
Dario Franchitti, second place now with Carpentier's misstep. Australia, 99 was the last time that Dario has won. He's hungry.
Remember, he did win here. Leading
5 laps to go.
Leading a 1-2 finish with Paul Tracy in 1999. The year that he took Montoya down to the last race at Fontana, tied for the championship. The advantage going to Montoya with more wins for that championship title. And look at Dario now pull up behind Castroneves.
Castroneves, winner here 1 year ago. First time he ever climbed the fence. Of course, the most notable climbing of the fence came at the Indianapolis 500 this year. Went earlier in the year at Long Beach as well. But Franchitti, oh, he wants that #1, perhaps more than most.
Roberto Moreno there, third in the train. Remember, as they came into this race last year, Moreno was tied for third in the championship. He's fallen back this year. It's been a little bit more difficult ride for him. Driving a very smart race, aggressive when he needed to be. Getting a little airtime coming off that third corner now, trying to close the gap to Franchitti.
Kenny Brack is still back in 10th. He hasn't been able to do much with this race. His hopes were high, 2 wins coming into this, hoping for 3 in a row, starting with his first Champ Car win. But a tough time for Kenny Brack here on the streets at Belle Isle in Detroit. Roberto Moreno, 1 victory, on the airport runways at Cleveland. Now sitting in third. Andretti is just behind Roberto, and Paul Tracy just behind Andretti. Bit of a gap, though, back from Moreno to Andretti, a couple hundred yards.
This will be a big boost for Moreno if he finishes in third. He's currently 18th in the championship. He needs these points. Now look how smooth Castroneves is. Hasn't lost his composure. Picked up about 1/10 of a second over Dario on that last lap. Both these drivers, first and second, very, very smooth. Very rarely see their cars move. Except we've seen a lot of movement from Dario today when he's needed to do it.
Michael Andretti, the third car at Team Green, started out of the top 10, up in fourth. Now, as we run to the closing laps of this race, we're also running out of time. In the extra caution periods, we will not get an opportunity to interview the winner, but he will be interviewed, and that will be on RPM tonight. Also in our replay midweek, we'll replay this race for you on the ESPN network. Just check your listings for those. And we apologize for that. It's a consequence of time. Jan Pikus.
With Barry Green, does Dario have anything in reserve for Elio?
Oh, we think so. I mean, it's going to be tough to pass. It's always tough to pass, but he's done a great lap. He's had a couple of quick laps catching up to him, but, you know, there's only a few laps left, but, you know, it's a great day for him so far. He almost had de Ferran a couple of times in the pits. We'll see what happens. And Paul's up there, Michael's there. It's great. It's really good. We just got to make it to the end now.
All right, we'll let you get back to the monitor. I know you're enjoying it. Gary?
And with Tim Cindric, of course, on the radio with Helio Castroneves, your concerns in these final laps as you try to make it 2 straight at Detroit.
Obviously, you got to get to the end to win, and last couple laps are obviously going to have a bit of drama. We're not sure in terms of one of our tire pressure sensors has gone away, and one of them looks as though it's low, so we'll have a bit of drama here.
But has the handling changed at all on the car?
No, he hasn't reported that, and we left our tires on the second stop. I mean, the Firestone tires have been great. Just a matter of what happens here in the next lap or so.
Thank you, Tim.
And point for Barry Green. He has 3 cars in the race. They're all in the top 5. Franchitti in second, Andretti in fourth, and Paul Tracy in fifth.
Tremendous run for Team Green. Consider that Dario may have started fourth, but Michael was in 13th. Paul Tracy down into 23rd, and as you said, now running second, fourth, and fifth with Team Motorola, Team Green. That's a great day for a race team when you've got 3 cars in a difficult race like the one here at Detroit.
But one more goal. Franchitti would love to get around and take the lead from Castroneves. Coming up next, more Auto Racing IRL at Pikes Peak, the Pikes Peak 200. Coming down now, they'll see white flag next time. Bye. That's 1 more lap to go.
And Paul, they're telling Paul Tracy that fuel is still critical even on this final lap.
Well, Paul Tracy sitting in fifth, Fittipaldi in sixth. Bit of a gap there, but Tracy's going to have to take it careful.
Well, fuel's been an issue here in the past. Remember in '97 when Mark Blundell and Mauricio Guggelin both ran out of fuel first and second within sight of the checkered flag.
The white flag comes out. Just about 2 miles to go for Helio Castroneves. Franchitti's last chance is here and now. Same time, look at Andretti starting to work on Moreno. Well, he dropped back there, maybe just trying to get the run.
It's been a flawless run for Castroneves and Team Penske. Gilles de Ferran would have been right there. They had that one glitch with the electronics that dropped de Ferran back to 8th place, but otherwise a great run.
Paul Tracy just started to slow. Tracy started to slow, and it's going to roll to a stop. Fittipaldi will come to 5th. Back to the lead of the race. Castroneves, Franchitti. It doesn't seem like Franchitti can do anything, but look at him slide the back end of that car. Franchitti still working on Helio Castroneves. Time and distance is running out.
It's time to climb a fence, I think, Paul.
Helio Castroneves takes the victory. So Helio Castroneves has taken the 5th career win in the Kart FedEx Championship Series. His second win this year, and of course you add to that the Indianapolis 500 outside the series. It's a great year for Helio Castroneves. Paul Tracy did run out of fuel in the final lap. Castroneves followed to the flag by Franchitti Moreno and Andretti. Thanks for joining us. IRL is coming up next. ABC Sports is online at ESPN.com. Keyword ABC Sports.